What's going on, everybody? So it's currently the year 2026. AI is taking over, especially agentic AI. And agentic AI is leading to a place right now where people and entire departments are potentially getting replaced. People are afraid of losing their jobs, right? People don't know what to do. And one of the biggest fear factors of this technology is that most people don't understand it, right? Currently, a lot of people are talking about AI models, AI agents, AI harnesses, and most people, most regular, normal day people don't know what those things are. And the problem that comes from not knowing what things are and just using them in sentences without actually, taking the time to understand them, it leads to a lot of confusion and a lot of downstream effects that we don't think about, right? People could go and put their information into these things without actually knowing them. People can not be able to use these things to the best of their abilities if they don't understand what they are. So I think at the end of this video, when you actually understand what an AI agent is, what it does, also understand what an LM is, what a model is, right? Understand what a harness is. I think you can step into a room and actually talk about these things where people can understand you. Okay, now I did some research last night because even me myself didn't really know what these things were as much as I use any sentences every day at work, right? There's always some blurry lines between what considers itself an agent or what we consider an agent versus what we don't consider an agent. So here's what we're going to start with, right? We're going to start with, first of all, the LLM, the large language model, or the SLM, the small language models, right? This is the building block of AI. This is really how far we've come in the artificial intelligence era. We've been able to create an architecture in the transformer architecture that can auto-generate or auto-complete text when it's given a set amount of input. So literally, the GPTs, the agentic things, all these big words that we're throwing around is just a machine that is able to output the next probable word from what is given. And what is given usually is called context, right? So if a machine has a context size of this right here, the system prompt will go here, and then your question to the AI will start from right here, and then from that point, the AI will start to generate an autocomplete what it thinks fits into your system prompt and your query. The combination of those is going to give you an answer based on that. So that bare bone right there is what an LLM is. And I want to show you guys some examples. So this right here, ladies and gentlemen, is a chatbot. Okay, when you talk to this thing, it's going to add your question to a chat history and also a system prompt, and it's going to autocomplete from there. These chatbots were amazing back in the day when they got created, right? Because you can say, "Oh, what is USA?" and it is going to just add to its prompts as an assistant and then autocomplete these things for you. It is absolutely beautiful. Now, what do we get from LLMs and chatbots? What was the next phase? The next phase to that was agents, all right? And agents are these things like Codex, right? That would be a coding agent. Or Claude, for example, that would be a coding agent. Now, the important thing to understand between what separates an LLM or chatbot or an AI model from an agent is basically the actual goal of the system. A Codex, for example, is going to be tasked with actually solving coding problems, right? It is given tools to help solve those problems. It is given rules. It's given skills. So to really understand an agent, you got to think of an LLM that is given extra information. It's also given a goal. It's given scripts that it can run. It's given definition of tools that it can call to do things. An agent can actually do things. An agent has a goal and has a purpose. It has agency, right? A model, an LLM that we talked about before, is just an autocomplete. When you put an LLM into a loop where it can call a tool when it needs it, and then as the result of that tool to its brain, that becomes an agent because it has a goal to go towards, right? It has agency. You as a person, if you just sit there and have nothing to do and you're just a generalist, right? You're pretty much useless. You aren't specialized in anything. That's what a chatbot like Gemini or ChatGPT, that's what they are. They're just chatbots, and they are more so just an extension of the LLM. However, when we go to agentic AI, when people start throwing these buzzwords up, you should think about things that have tools, things that have a designated goal. That is the only difference between an LLM and an AI agent. An AI agent is set to do a certain thing. For example, a finance, it can be an agent. A finance LLM could be an agent. A coach, a soccer coach agent or LLM is called an agent because it has a goal and it has a thing that is domain specific that you want from that agent. Whether or not you give it tools is up to you. It doesn't necessarily need tools to be called an agent. Now, the other part of this that is coming out now from the agentic side, right? So we had LLMs, then we give LLMs agency, call them agents, right? Where now they can use tools. We have this next part, ladies and gentlemen. This next part right here is called the harness, right? So the harness is how we orchestrate the agents, how we can delegate tasks to different LLMs with agencies, right? Claude Code, even though it's a coding agent, right? Codex, even though its job, it has an agency, which is to create code, right? It is also a harness because those agentic systems, right? Those big agentic systems like Claude Code, OpenCode, all those big ones that you think about, right? Their goal is also to spawn these sub agents beneath them. And the process of spawning these sub agents leads to the bigger guy, right? The Claude Code becoming the harness of agency for LLMs, right? So a Claude Code can be used to dedicate tasks to different agentic systems. So a harness has the ability to use multiple agents. So that's the best way to sort of think about these things. And then when you go to places when people start talking about them, you can actually sit down and say, yes, I actually know what an agent is. I know what a harness is because right now we're in the harness era. Everybody wants to build a harness, right? Something that can put multiple agents into a set structure to create a functioning organism. This is where we're going towards, right? If you have an agent that their goal is to walk. You have another agent that their goal is to grab. You have another agent that their goal is to run, right? What's stopping you from having multiple agents, like the eyeball agent, the nose agent, the mouth agent, the ear agent? What's stopping you from putting all that together into a harness system that can orchestrate all of them in a coordinated way? What's stopping you from doing that, right? The thing that's stopping you from doing that is a good enough harness. The harnesses that we have today is Claude Code, right? A lot of people we have Claude Code interact with their agentic workflows, right? Claude Code, we create sub agents. Claude Code, we create all these things. But we got to realize that they're all one and the same. They're all just LLMs being used differently. Claude Code itself is just a super large agent whose agency is to orchestrate other agents and run them in a loop by giving them the observation of their tool calls and also having them stop when they need to call a tool. They're like, it's beautiful how far we've come, but it's also funny how not far we've also come, right? Like it was great getting to the transformer, right? Adding the attention layer to make these things understand how to produce text based on how the sentence is structured. However, we haven't broken past that yet. We are still at that LLM era, that era of autocomplete. We're still at that era of autocomplete. We've just had a lot of smart people being able to turn that autocomplete into things that's actually useful, right? To agents, to now harnesses. So if you guys have any questions, let me know down in the comments. Without further ado, peace out, bye bye. Gang.